All right. Well, hello everyone. I am Brad Bailey, aka Coach Cheerios, and this is How to Coach Rocket League. Thank you all for coming. Um, so a little bit about me. I'm primarily a Rocket League coach, even although I've coached other games. I've been a coach for the U.S. Air Force Academy and Auburn University Rocket League teams for the past 4-ish years. Um, Coached several teams up to top 128 RLCS finishes, and I organized the debut tournament for a player who has since risen to the professional RLCS circuit. And some fun facts about me. I was semi-pro level at Halo 3 when I was 10 years old back in the day, and I have over 10,000 hours in Rocket League. All right, so what is Rocket League? So it is essentially soccer with cars. You drive around a soccer field, you fly up in the air, you score goals, and you can customize your car. And then there's the competitive side where you have your advanced mechanics, your rotations, passing plays, boost timers, demolitions, communications, your general mechanics, strategies, stuff like that. Most competitive games can be divided into three sections using a macro, meso, micro analytical framework. This is something that's used in other industries to break down concepts at different levels. But you have your macro, which is going to be your overall game knowledge, the state of the game, your overall information. You have your meso, which is going to be how you react to human players, how they react to you, the human aspect and human input of the game. And then you have your micro, which is your actual inputs, your mechanics, your the buttons you press on your controller. Um, Different games also, before I move on, different games have different levels of macro, meso, and micro. So Rocket League, as an example, doesn't have a lot of macro compared to a game like chess, where chess has a lot of different openings, positions, lines, etc. So the more overall game knowledge you have, the more successful you be. But with chess, there's not a lot of micro. Like it doesn't take a lot of mechanical skill to move a piece on the board. Whereas Rocket League doesn't have a lot of micro, or macro, sorry. It doesn't have a lot of macro, but the macro is heavily influenced by the meso and micro of the game. So going into the macro portion, Rocket League's macro is very fast. It's very heavily influenced by the meso and micro aspects of the game. Um, the macro is pretty much determined by knowing how much control you have over your car, how much control the enemy has over their car, what options they have, what options you have to respond to that. And that kind of takes an intuitive understanding of how the game functions, which is why it's very influenced by the meso. Um, the macro is also like where your teammates are, where they are on the field, what they want to do, whether that's off the ball or on the ball. Um, and off the ball can be demos and bumps, boost control, rotations, and communication. Specifically, letting your teammates know where you are on the field will give them the information to have you as an option to make a play. Um, we're not when it comes to the macro aspect of the game, we're not wanting our students to get to that level where they're constantly thinking about how do we develop this passing play, uh, like forcing that side of the game. It should be something that comes naturally after you understand the fundamentals. The meso, playing with and against people. First things first, getting your students to know the Fenworks rules and guidelines and general gaming etiquette. So being nice to your teammates and your opponents, knowing the rules, just how everything works. That's the most essential aspect of playing with and against people. For Rocket League, though, a lot of the meso aspect of the game is just having awareness of what's happening on the field, whether that is what your teammates are doing, where they are, what their intentions are, and that should be communicated. And the same thing applies to the enemy team. What is the enemy team wanting to do? Where are they positioned? How much boost do they have? What options do they have given all of the information we have? Uh, and then communication and coordination, specifically in Rocket League, because it's such a fast-paced game, having good communication and coordination with your teammates is essential. Giving yourself and your teammates the information needed to make the right decisions. And that could be positioning, that could be what you want to do with the ball, or executing a strategy that you've previously communicated with your team. And then you have the micro aspect, which is going to be your mechanical ability. Uh, Rocket League is probably the most mechanically nuanced esport out of all of the titles that I've played or coached. Um, you have the foundational skills, which is just going to be understanding how to move your car, and that can be broken down into a bunch of different aspects, as you see: boosting, flipping, power slides, air roll, uh, pathing, and using your car cam and ball cam. You have your basic aerial mechanics, which is just being able to jump in the air and boost towards the ball and hit it in the air. And then same thing with striking, you being able to jump towards the ball and use your flip to get power into a touch to shoot it. All of those fundamental mechanics build into the more advanced stuff. So you have your intermediate movement mechanics like half flip, wave dashes, and power slide recoveries. And you have your fast aerial mechanics and advanced solo plays. So you can learn how to do air dribbles, more advanced flicks. There's double touches, flip resets. You guys might not know what any of these are, but they're advanced mechanics in Rocket League that are only doable, or you can only execute these mechanics with solid foundational skills. Rocket League, out of any game, is the most mechanically stressful to learn and be consistent at. So some general coaching advice: trust in the process. Rocket League is very mechanical, so warm-up routines are extremely helpful. Um, Getting your players to just hop into free play and drive around the field, getting used to how their car feels as they're just, pressing buttons, flipping around the field, practicing aerials, just driving around the field and doing the basics, getting comfortable with that is essential. Um, Especially for context at the top level, professional players will be using custom training packs or free play for several hours a day before they even hop into a ranked or a scrim with another team. Um, it's very, very helpful to have that warm up routine. Um, Reviewing footage as well. Rocket League is a very, very fast paced game. Uh, your students will have to make decisions in game on the fly. And so being able to watch their gameplay back, talk about their decisions, why they did what they did, is super, super important, because the gameplay is so fast, it's hard to process what's happening in the moment. You can utilize things like YouTube, looking up like RLCS 3v3 player point of view. You'll be able to watch gameplay of high level players and see what they're doing, just to give your students some ideas. And Rocket League being a very popular esports title, you might have students who have experience playing the game at a relatively high level. So feel free to ask them for advice, especially if you have a mixed skill level group of students. Um, but yeah, free play is the most important and effective method for learning how to play the game. Um, as an example, real quick, yeah. So on the main menu of Rocket League, you just go to play, training, and free play, and it just puts you into an empty field where you can drive around. And just getting your players used to driving around the field, controlling their car, using car cam, ball cam, jumping around, boosting, etc. Most useful tool. The other tool that, let's see, yeah. The other tool that you'll use is custom training packs. So Rocket League has a lot of very unique scenarios that you aren't really going to be able to produce in free play, but players have made custom training packs. So once again, if we go to the main menu, we would go to play, training, custom training, and then we have a bunch of different training packs. So I'll just go into a random one here. And so this basically just puts the ball into a bunch of different positions where I can practice taking shots and going for the ball in a bunch of different scenarios. Um, so very, very helpful tool as well in game that you can utilize. Here, um, going back to this, sorry. Um, Once again, without going into the in-game specifics, or without having that in-game knowledge, the most helpful piece of advice I could give you from a general manager point of view is to work on communication. No matter how good your students are at the game individually, the thing that's going to help the development of your players is communication and coordination. Um, Specifically with Rocket League, it being such a fast-paced game, your teammates can play around you better when they know what you're doing, and vice versa. Um, so communication and coordination over anything game specific, like strategies or mechanics, stuff like that. If you have to choose something to focus on, that's going to be the most um, helpful thing. Um, Rocket League also has, going back to the reviewing footage aspect of things, you can record your player's POV using things like OBS. They can share their screen with you using Zoom, Teams, Discord, etc. But you can also go to your, okay, yeah. You can also go to the profile section in game here and go to match history, and you can save your replays and watch them back in game. So um, your students can share these with you as well, which I'll have to make a note of this because I didn't include it. Um, let me see. So in this file path here, in your documents folder, you go to My Games, Rocket League, TA Game, Demos. These are going to be your replay files, so your students can find these and then send them to you, or open them up in their game and review that match directly in game. So something I just wanted to show you guys. And then here, so I've included a couple different YouTube channels and a video. So here is a general beginner's guide to Rocket League. I highly recommend watching this if you have no prior experience or context about competitive Rocket League. That's going to be very helpful. And then these two channels here, Ronskian, who is a RLCS coach, and apparently Jack, who is a current professional player. He also does Rocket League analysis. Both of these guys do very contextual videos at different ranks. So I highly recommend checking out these two YouTube channels because you'll gain access to a lot more nuanced, like contextual information about in-game situations and scenarios that you won't get through general guides or watching just regular gameplay. Highly recommend. Let me see. So I think that generally covers how to coach Rocket League without getting too in depth into the specifics of it. Do we have any questions? Anybody? Yep.
So in League of Legends and other games, I'm encouraging the students to talk to each other. All right, tell each other what's going on in the top lane and the bot lane and all that stuff. What do you encourage the students to communicate in this one? Like, all right, I'm going to be the forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the way I try to get my students to communicate in Rocket League is you have your you have the player who is on the ball or who has possession, or the player who's going to challenge the ball first. So Rocket League is really fast paced and really intuitive in how your players are going to react to uh, different scenarios. Uh, so the player who is going to challenge the ball first should know that they're going to challenge the ball first, or that they're in the best position to do so, and they would communicate to their teammates what their intention is. So whether it's to just uh, try and dive on the ball to try and get it away from the enemy team, or if they're wanting to take possession, the player who's going for the ball needs to communicate intention, and then the players who are off the ball supporting the other player would communicate their position to give that player options. So if my first man, who is the person who has control of the ball, they would communicate what they're intending to do with the ball. But if my other players communicate, like, oh, I'm across the field, for example, that gives the person with the ball the option to pass the ball over to the player that they now know is over to that side of the field, right? So, TLDR, to summarize, the person with the ball communicates intention, the people off the ball communicate position, and that allows the player with possession to have options.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Um, the the it's hard to get into very game specific concepts without really diving in. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I guess I can go through and talk about generally what you'll see from your players. Give me 1 second. Okay, so using the game's built-in replay thing. So generally, what you're going to see in competitive Rocket League is this kind of triangle formation. If you look at the orange team here, we have one person who's up close to the ball, one person who's behind them, and one person who's like back to the left. Sorry?
It froze.
It froze. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, is it good now?
Are you playing the video right now?
No, I'm. It shows. It shows it working on my end, but
it's frozen on Peppery Furball.
let me. All right, can you see it now?
There we go.
Yep. Thank you.
Cool. So generally in Rocket League, you have it's 3 versus 3, and you have your first man, second man, and third man positions. So your first man is going to be the person who's going for the ball. That's the person who's has the best opportunity to make something happen on the ball. Your second man is going to be the person who's supporting your first man. They're trying to take advantage or clean up whatever opportunity first man creates on the play. And then your third man is just basically playing the safety option. You're playing defensively, far away from the play, covering across. So um, you're basically going to see your team naturally form a triangle. Um, so this is a very core concept to Rocket League rotations. So but you can also see that the play is super dynamic. Like we're not always going to be following a triangular rotation. If the ball ends up going to the left side of the field and my teammate is on that left side of the field, I'm going to let him take that touch and then I'm going to reposition around that. So Rocket League rotations can end up being very dynamic and very intuitive insofar as like what decisions you're going to make. Do I go for the ball? Do I let my teammate go for the ball? Stuff like that. So this is something that you can start getting your students to do a basic uh, formation of. So since Peppery Furball right here, he just challenged this ball, he's going to rotate through the play and come out and around. And then the second man is going to come up and take control of the ball. And Peppery Furball doesn't rotate through because he looks for a forward pass option, which is a little bit higher level. But then I adapt by pushing up towards the midfield. And so it can get very convoluted, very confusing very quickly. But in general, if you get your students to follow a simple 1-2-3 pattern where first man makes a play on the ball, and then they're going to rotate out of the play and around their teammates, and then second man is going to push up into the play, and then he becomes first man, and then the third man pushes up, and then third man becomes second man. So you kind of see we just take turns in these different roles. Um, but as you get higher level, that rigid structure rotationally is going to completely fall apart and it's going to become a lot more dynamic. But um, going back to communication, just knowing uh, that your teammate is first man. If your teammate says, I'm challenging, or I got it, I'm challenging, or I'm first, knowing that he has a teammate behind him or to the side, that's going to help the structure of rotations form naturally in the team. And then also, Rocket League being a very mechanical game, people have vastly different play styles, and synergy is a really big thing. So playing with your teammates and knowing what decision they're going to make, just because you've played with them enough, right? Uh, that's also super important. So in general, whenever you're working with students and trying to get them to improve in a team environment, uh, once again, communication is key. That's going to allow them to make the most uh, impactful decisions and just focusing on the fundamentals. So, like I said earlier, um, sorry, utilizing things like free play and custom training packs, watching their gameplay. Uh, Another thing that I'll make note of is, like I said earlier, Rocket League is very fast. The macro of the game is constantly changing in the middle of the game. Um, so a lot of players will lack uh, will lack focus or composure in their gameplay, especially because it's so dynamic and physics based. Um, Going over footage with your players, asking about the decisions that they make, but also if you can recognize in their gameplay when you're reviewing it that they're panicking or that they're rushing things, I would bring that up because a lot of Rocket League is timing, almost like a fighting game. Like to execute mechanically with precision, you have to have like the right speed, the right angle, the right timing, stuff like that, right? And you can be off in whatever aspect, but a lot of it comes down to just composure. Um, let's see. So, are there any other questions? No more questions?
No more questions.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I would also recommend um as well as looking up high level gameplay like RLCS 3v3 gameplay on YouTube for advice. There are very many guides on the different mechanics in Rocket League. So I would recommend looking up just Rocket League mechanics guide and seeing the different things that you can do in the game and showing those to your students, getting them to experiment in free play with those skills. But in general, uh, communication and free play, working on the fundamental foundational mechanics of Rocket League, those are going to be the two most important things that you should focus on to see improvement in your player's development. This game is very mechanical, very dynamic. To have a high level impact, you have to have quite a bit of game knowledge as a coach. So the more you guys can educate yourselves on mechanics and gameplay strategies, which I highly recommend once again, Ronskian and apparently Jack, both very intelligent players and coaches. They will definitely help with that, bridge that knowledge gap for yourself and your players. But anyway, I think if we don't have any more questions, that will pretty much conclude the presentation for today.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys so much for attending, and I hope this was insightful.
Good day.
Let's get it done. Yeah, I just don't want to do the recording. Yeah. Only next one. She must be.
Did I get your contact?
What's your peak rank? Have you hit SSL?
Me?
Yeah.
I stopped competing before SSL was a thing. So prior to the game going free to play in 2020, the max rank was Grand Champion.
Yeah, that's too, yeah.
And then they switched it to SSL later on. So I was about 1800 MMR back in the day during the closed era, but I stopped competing well before SSL was a thing. But right now I sit between Grand Champion 2 and Grand Champion 3.
Okay, did you play on like a bubble team back in the day?
I played in a couple community leagues and I did ranked six mans, but I never played in the RLRS or RLCS.
You didn't? Okay. Okay. Cool. All right, that's all I have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brad.